Hello, and welcome back to the podcast, Education Transformation. Today's guest is someone who has quietly and profoundly influenced how we think about children, learning, and connection. Gavin McCormack is a nationally awarded educator and recognized leader in the field of development and education. As Montessori Australia Ambassador, he has championed child-centered learning, not just as a philosophy, but as a way of seeing and honoring children as capable, thinking, emotionally intelligent human beings. His impact reaches far beyond Australia. Gavin has supported the building of schools in Nepal, contributed internationally to conversations about education reform, and continues to guide families and children around the world toward calmer, more connected approaches to raising and teaching children. He is the author of Raising Resilient Children and co-author of Screen Smart Children, a timely and deeply important book that reframes the conversation around technology. Rather than fueling fear, Gavin calls us back to what matters most: relationship, regulation, and reflection. Across all his work runs a clear and powerful message. Children matter. Their inner world matters. Their nervous systems matter. The way we look at them, listen to them, and respond to them shapes who they believe they are becoming. Gavin reminds us that when children feel seen and heard, we don't just improve behavior or academic outcomes. We pave the way for confidence, resilience, and a deep sense of self-worth. And that changes everything. I'm truly honored to welcome Gavin McCormack to the conversation today. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Gavin. How are you?
How are you? I'm good. How are you going?
I'm really wonderful, thanks. I'm so glad we're finally getting a chance to chat. So you have just shared a book publishing called Screen Smart Kids, and you've
Mm,
also just returned from Nepal, where you're doing some
mm.
amazing work. Would you like to
Yes.
start with telling us a little bit about what you were doing in Nepal?
I've been going to Nepal for 10 years now. I originally started 2016. I went there on a kind of whim. I was graduating from my Montessori college, Australia Montessori Institute, and I had one final practicum to take place. And you usually just go to a school down the street. And I thought, maybe I'll just do something different. I'll ask my lead teacher if I can do my final prac in the Himalayas, just because, why not? If you don't ask, you don't get. I asked, and he said, okay, go for it. So I contacted a training center there and I said, look, can I come and do my last prac with you? And they said yes. And while there, number one, I fell in love with Himalayas. They were just, if you've not been to Nepal or the Himalayas, I mean, when you see an 8,000-meter mountain, you realize how insignificant your problems are, how everything is just in perspective. But also, I got to visit some local people in a very rural part of Nepal where very few people get to visit because I became very close to a particular gentleman, Anand Devkota, is like my brother now over there. And I saw what schooling was like and what real schools looked like in Nepal, and it made me very sad. So I decided I was going to fix that school up, and then I got addicted to that feeling of helping. And I've now, I think, 13, 14 schools we've built. We've got libraries, training centers, and I just took on a project in Jumla, which is, if anyone's listening from Nepal, 3.5 days drive from Kathmandu, solid driving in the worst road in the world, worse than the one you've seen in Bolivia. It's just horrendously dangerous, but it was amazing. And so we built a school there for 70 orphans on top of a mountain. It was just the greatest month of my entire life. Yes.
Oh,
So
how beautiful. I
it
love that you
was,
said you've got sort of addicted to that feeling. That
yeah.
is that's really a part of, always meaningful education is my baby, if you will, and part of the AME arc is taking students from their curiosities through a creation phase, ultimately leading to contribution with
Mm,
the hope that that will become like an addiction for them as well, that they'll just really love the experience of contributing.
I
I
agree completely. We actually resonate on the same wavelength there. I've done my, I get invited on lots of podcasts, and I usually I don't have time. When I read about your bio and what you do and what you believe, I thought, wow, this is down my street, this mindset, because I know everyone has a coined phrase and whatnot, but purposeful education is what I like to call it, and it's where education inspires a feeling, evokes an emotion in your heart. When a child, I imagine it where a child's going to bed at night, they're lying on their pillow and they say, I can't believe I did that. Like, I did that thing. And it's not, I got that grade or I got those points or, my teacher thinks I'm great or on top of the class. It's, I can't believe that I attracted a butterfly or made somebody smile or made someone's day better. That's the feeling we need. And we miss that intrinsic reward to doing good work in schools.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And cultivating that intrinsic motivation to contribute is, I believe, part of our responsibility as we guide these young humans into adulthood who will be the leaders of the world. I'm really inspired. I saw so many of your beautiful pictures from Nepal and the students that you helped. You've been you've been doing so many great things. I mean, you're the ambassador for Montessori in Australia, which is incredible. You've earned so many accolades and awards, and now you've just contributed this amazing book which is called Screen Smart Children. And in it, you describe it as a response to an impossible dilemma for parents. I'm wondering if there was a moment when you realized this book needed to happen now. Was there
Yeah,
a
I mean,
pivotal? Mhm.
I was launching the book on Wednesday night in the biggest bookshop in Australia with Professor Mark Williams, who's a dear friend of mine. We wrote the book together. He's a new. I said to the audience, if you have any hard questions, I'm a kindergarten teacher. He's a neuroscientist, so you know where to point your questions, point them to him. But I've learned a lot from him, over the years I've known him. And I guess, I was writing another book, Raising Resilient Children, which has been out about 6 months. And then we went for lunch and he said, look, I've got this idea for a book. And so he floated the idea for a book that he had. And the book was it was for teenagers, and it was about to expose to them what tech was doing to their brain and empower them to choose wisely.
Mm,
And I just said to him, look, man, like I think it's beautiful, but I really don't think a book is going to get kids to put it down. I just seen it. I don't think it's going to happen that way. I think
mm,
we have to educate the parents because, as we know, parents are the role models to their children, and therefore readers are born on the laps of their parents. You don't tell your kids to read. You read in front of them and then they read. That's just the way. There's a neuron called a mirror neuron that says, I love you and I trust you. I will be you. What you do, they will do. Follow the child, model the behavior you wish to view in the people around you. All these things, we know that. So I said to him, hey man, let's write a book for parents so that they know what's going on and then they can model it and then bingo and give them the solutions to say, well, if I'm going to ask my children, not to use their phone at the dinner table, and I'm not going to do that too, or I'm going to say to the children, Wednesday night is no tech night and we're going to do something fun. Like we've got to fill the void with something. We can't just have an empty space. And you can have boredom. You have a network in your brain called the DMN, default mode network. And when you are bored, it kicks in and you have these amazing moments of synaptic connections and this deep learning. And you'll probably know all of this, but
yeah.
we wanted to give the parents some hands-on, proven solutions that would engage connection in the family. And that connection feels so
Mm,
good. And so we put it together. But the moment was this. I was thinking, oh, can I write this book and do I have the expertise and is it needed and all this stuff? And then two things happened. The first thing was Australia banned social media for under 16s like this. And I was like, okay, this is a sign. The constellations are aligning and it needs to happen. And secondly, I was having dinner with a friend of mine and we're sitting in a restaurant. And do you know yellow car theory? Have you heard that before? Yellow car theory. It's
no.
when You and your husband or your wife or whoever, your partner, you decide you're going to buy a car and it's going to be yellow. And you walk outside and suddenly you see yellow cars everywhere. They're always there. But now,
Yeah,
you have this network called the RAS in your brain that only lets
right.
things through that are goals. And now suddenly yellow cars are everywhere because you've decided that you want to buy a yellow car. And so, because I was thinking about this book, although this had probably been around me the whole time, I suddenly started being hyper vigilant of tech in the community and how it was affecting people. So, I was having dinner with a friend and I saw a couple, and they were having dinner. It was outside, it was by the harbor, there was the opera house, there was the bridge, and it was all beautiful. There was people, there was music, there was noise, there was conversations, there was lights, there was all this wonderful stuff. And there was a couple sitting having dinner with their son, and their son was maybe 3 or 4. And he was sitting at the table with headphones on, noise cancelling, Peppa Pig for 2 hours. I just watched I was just in despair of like, oh no, it's terrible. And being a Montessori teacher, I'm not criticizing the parents, not at all. If you don't know, you don't know. But there was so much for him to notice that night, so much for him to learn, facial expressions from his family, vocabulary from his mum and dad, and learning about other people's emotions and other people's, seeing all of that stuff around him to see and absorb and learn about how to be and what the world is and how to function. And he was actually just watching a small Apple gadget with a pink pig wandering around saying gibberish for 2 hours. And I thought, although Peppa Pig, is good in its sense that it has values and it has these nice stories and things, yeah, there was so much missed out that night because of that. And I thought, yeah, I've really got to write this book now, so I better get back to my keyboard and start tapping away. And that was the motivator for it. And now it's out there and it's flying. It's amazing. Went straight to the top of the charts, and Australia is just like so good. So anyway, fingers
Wow,
crossed.
that's exciting. I
Fingers
I
crossed it does what it
definitely
needs to do.
I'm gifting this book to my clients
Ah, so
because
kind. Thank you.
it's a struggle for the parents. All parents are, at least the ones that are in my life, are sharing that. How do we get the kids away? Is it too much? What is the damage that what's the potential for damage? So I think you're right. We don't blame parents, and 100% agree with you. If they don't know, then we need to empower them, right? We need to
Yeah.
educate them and empower them to make good choices. And that's sort of another one of the backbones of AME is the idea that if we can educate children about how their brains and bodies learn, then they also can make informed decisions about what they're going to do with their time, all the way, including screen time. But
Yeah.
before we shift gears, because I do want to ask you about raising resilient children. Yes,
Okay,
please.
I know you do, but I need to say one more thing because you're on a
Please.
podcast and a lot of parents listening, and I'm thinking a lot. Like, when parents are coming to you and they're saying, okay, how much time and how much damage and all these things, very hard to conceptualize that in a sentence or in a paragraph. So I have this nugget that I'll tell you. And
Oh,
I think that when you hear this, when anyone hears this, you immediately want the opposite for your children. Okay. So
okay.
you
All
are
ears.
yeah, yeah. If you are a girl between 16 and 22, and I won't say the name of the social network, but you will know what it is. If I go into a particular social network and I delete a photograph of myself in that age bracket as a girl, the algorithm is set up to detect that I'm feeling insecure about my appearance. And the next thing I will see when I scroll will be an advertisement for diet pills or cosmetics to make me feel better and make me buy it. So when you hear that, you know that actually the story is not just about those girls in that algorithm. We're all in our own little algorithm and we're being fed this thing, and it knows how we think, it predicts how we feel, and its ultimate objective is to get us to look and click and then spend some money. And I don't think anybody wants that in their child's world. And therefore, if that doesn't make you want to just put the iPad in the microwave for 30 seconds, then nothing will.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny, but that's a good idea though. Oh my goodness, that example really just it hits hard, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I felt that all over my body, just thinking
Yeah.
about these young developing humans getting trapped into these algorithms that are really shaping their identity, and it's an identity that is not desirable. It's one
No.
that's focused on comparison and putting your face on and portraying yourself to society in a certain way. And wow, thank you. You are so right to stop me and share that example because I know that's going to land with parents. Speaking of parents, in your book, The Screen Smart Children, you have 6 research grounded principles. And I wanted
Mm.
to ask you, which one do you think is the one that's most difficult for parents or making them the most uncomfortable, and why?
I think it's the modeling part, and it's simply because it's almost like smoking, isn't it? The 1950s, everyone was smoking, and it was like, whoa, smoking is cool, and don't worry, it's healthy. And everyone's like, oh yeah, let's just smoke all day. Then we're like, actually, sorry guys, smoking kills you. I'm sorry about that. And like, oh my goodness, I've got to stop smoking now. And now nobody smokes. I don't know about where you are. Actually, in Spain, you have a lot of smokers there. Actually, I've been there
Actually,
smoking. Yeah, smoking. France and
yes,
Spain, smokers. In Australia, you see no smokers. Well, not no, but you see very few smokers here. People don't smoke because now you know, and when you know, you know.
right.
But like smoking, we tech came into our hands very quickly. We had no idea what it was. We thought it was about connection. We thought we were socializing, but actually we were just selling our time and our eyes. The average Australian looks at their telephone between 5 and 6 hours per day, which is 17 years of your whole life. So you'll be
Wow.
looking at your screen 17 years, and that's a shocker. But we caught in the web, and we're trying to edge our way out of it. We've got these apps and timers and stuff, and our children they're not caught in the web yet. But if we're not careful, they will be caught in that web. And when you're in, it's very hard to get out. So you've got to detox, you've got to defragment, you've got to all of those things. And so I think the hardest thing that we're facing is that modeling what we want to see. We say no phones at the dinner table, but I've just got to take this business call. It's very important. Or no phones in the bedroom. You can't do that, but me and your mum are going to bed looking at Twitter. So, and children are, they are very, very astute. They watch very carefully. What's the famous word? It's like they will listen to 10% of what you say, but copy 90% of what you do. And so the hardest thing I think we're facing is modeling the behavior we wish to view in our
Mm.
children. No criticism because, but it's hard. That's the hardest bit. And we've got to be proactive in order to do that. I mean, I don't know if you read about still face syndrome, but you've read about this before. Yeah. So, children right now, we're having this epidemic floating around the world. It's prominent in China, in the UK, in America, and Australia. And it's children sitting on the floor at 3 years of age or 2, and the cat walks by and they pull the cat's tail like this, right? Because that's what kids do. Not in a nasty way, but they just pull it and they look at mum or dad. And what they're looking for is, I don't want you to tell me if what I did was good or bad. Just your face will tell me, is this a good or bad thing to do? And mum will say, ooh, don't, you'll
Mm.
hurt the cat. Now, what
Right.
happens is you hear the tone of voice, you look at the facial expression, you look at the body language, and child learns, hey, that thing that I did on the scale of good to bad, on the emotional scale of terrible to wonderful, this is where it sits. That facial expression matches this action, that body language matches this action, and that voice and that tone matches this action. And the child learns, hey, that's what I do when someone does that to me. Someone pushes me, they don't mean to. I say, hey, by the way, that's not nice. You weren't really nasty. And they learn how to have emotions, how to have emotion regulation, how to pull faces. We have this still face syndrome epidemic. It's going around the entire world because the child pulls the cat's tail, looks at mum or dad, and mum's on Instagram. And Instagram causes you to have a still face. So the child goes, oh, everything is just still face. And so they go out, they can't tell if someone's sad or happy. They can't show someone if they're sad or happy. They can't speak in a different tone. And so we've got these schools appearing around the world that are teaching children how to use their faces. because it's missing. And we've got still face syndrome epidemic going around the planet, and it's a shocker. It's a real shocker. So I guess the secret is model the behavior you wish to view in the people around you. When the child is in your presence, the phone should be away, because that's the best we can do.
Absolutely. I resonate really, it resonates with me what you're saying because as I walk around in this beautiful city of Madrid, I see a lot of that. I see the strollers being pushed while the phone is in one hand and the parents sitting on benches in parks on their phones while their children play. And it breaks my heart. And I think about how grateful I am that my children are adults. And when they were young, this wasn't even an option for me. So, and I just
Mhm.
think about all those precious moments of observing them playing and laughing and growing, and how much our parents are missing out on that because they are spending hours on their phones. I mean, 5 to 6 hours a day, that boggles the mind, really. Mm.
That's the average, by the way.
It's heartbreaking. And I am curious to know how that is globally. And I'm sure, Australia is falling in the average range along with the rest of the world. But that really is shocking. Well, it's hard to shift gears away from something as heavy as this, but I really want to just take an opportunity to touch base with you on raising resilient children. What was your inspiration? What prompted the writing of that book?
Um, so about 7 years ago, I um, I was working. I'd retrained as a Montessori educator, and from a mainstream teacher. And my friends had children. They were asking me things about children. And Gav, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And suddenly, I was giving all this advice, and they were listening to me. I was like, wow. Maybe I know something. I'm not sure. And I was running one day with a friend of mine around the park, and he said, Gav, we've been doing all the things you said with our child, and it's really cool. Like, you should start a podcast or something. I can't remember what he said. And I thought, maybe I should. Maybe I should. Because at that point, there's only a few male Montessori educators in Australia, and I knew them. And so there's just a few of us floating around. I thought, maybe I can just start telling people about Montessori and what it happens in schools and in classrooms and at home and whatnot. And it was really interesting. But I decided not to start a podcast, and I started writing a blog. And every
Mm.
day I would wake up and I would go for a walk, and then I would sit down for 20 minutes. And I'm very good when it comes to tech. I log in, I write something, I leave it, I come back 12 hours later, I check it for 20 minutes, and I go away again. And I just do that. I don't scroll, I don't do any of those things. And that's me proactively trying to model the behavior that I'm talking about, because when you know, you know. Anyway, I started writing this blog every day, and I was writing it for 3.5 years. And it was getting a bit of people coming to read it, and not too many, but quite a few here and there. And it was pulling up on Google all the time, and people were looking at it. And my friend said, "Hey, why do you write that blog every day? Like, it's a lot of work, and what's the point? You don't really get that many people visiting." And I said, one day someone's going to find that blog, and they're going to say, "There's a book there." And he said, "Oh, good luck with that. That's every writer's dream." And then I carried on for 2 more years. And then I was sitting at this exact desk, and the phone rang, and it was a number I'd never heard before. And I said, "Hello." And this guy said, "Hello, my name's Daniel Pilkington. And, I'm an agent, and I writer's agent." And he goes, "And I found your blog." And I said, "Yes, and I thought I was dreaming." And he said, "There's 5 books sitting on that blog. We need to meet for a coffee." And then we had a coffee and a conversation. He said, "Right, let's go to the head office of Simon and Schuster Australia." We went for a meeting with them, and they said, "Here's a book deal, and here's another book deal." And yeah, so I wrote it. And a long answer to your question, but the other part of that is, for anybody out there who's a writer, you've got to write 90,000 words. It's a big job, and you've got to put your heart on the sleeve. It's got to be good. It's got to be grade A. A load of people are going to read it, so they've got to get something out of it. And it's not about the money. You won't be rich being a writer, but it's about impact. And you're looking at a blank, it's Microsoft Word just pulsing at you with blank pages, and you're like, "Well, what do I start writing?" So it's like "Once Upon a Time," or "It Was a Dark, Starry Night." What do you write? And so I just sat looking at my computer for a few days, thinking, okay, where to begin? And I started going back. I decided to answer this question. I decided, like, okay, how did I get to be here? And I'm nowhere. Like I'm not anywhere. I'm not successful in that sense. In some senses, yes, but I'm not talking about fame or, any of those things or finance. I don't have any of those things. How did I get to be 47 years of age and be a teacher, living in Australia and blah, 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 whatever? So I started going back in time in my brain, like, okay, let's go backwards and just keep going until you get to something which you think is a really good place to start your story. And it went back to when I was 16 and when I was sitting in geography. I was sitting in geography. I was 16 years of age. I was disillusioned. I didn't like school. I had a couple of friends. I was poor. I'd been bullied very badly because I had no money and I was living in kind of a rich part of town. My mum had tried really hard to get us a good start in life and putting us in a good school. And I was feeling pretty rubbish about it all, but I was okay. I was okay, but I wasn't really doing very well at school because life was such a struggle that I really couldn't focus on studying, because it was just hard to get through and to stay afloat. And I was sitting in geography. I'd been predicted two E's, an F, and a D in my A levels, and I was really going nowhere. And we had to do like a survey of what we wanted to be when we were older.
Hmm.
And I played football my whole life and I was good at football. So I enjoyed it. And my sports teacher had said, look, can you coach these kids? They're only, like 10 years old. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll give it a go. And I really enjoyed coaching them. Mum had seen it. She was like, that's a good thing. She said, you should be a teacher. So I wrote down teacher on my survey. But there was no chance of me getting into teaching college because my grades were just terrible. And I was sitting in geography, and his name was Mr. McKenney, and I had to think very hard to get that name when I was sitting at that blank. And one day I was leaving geography, and this is, any teachers, this is the power we have got, right? And the book is dedicated to him. I haven't found him, but the book will find its way to him. Or maybe this podcast will be the way it gets to him. And he stopped me on the way out of geography, and he said, can I have a word with you? I said, sure. I thought, I'm in trouble. And he said, listen, I saw that you put down teacher. And he said, there's really no chance with those grades of getting into teaching university. And I said, oh, no, yeah, it's not looking good. It's a pipe dream. And he said, but there is a glimmer of hope because I know you like geography. I can see that you enjoy it. I said, yeah, I love it. I really like it. And he said, I know you're having a hard time, but I want to make you an offer. I'll give you something to do every day, a little task, like a drawing a diagram, or writing a paragraph or something. You go home and do it. You give it to me the next day, and I'll give you some feedback. And I reckon in 6 weeks, we can get you up to spec when it comes to your geography exam. And you might just be able to turn that D into a C. And I reckon a C will get you into teaching college because there's no men going to teaching college. You'll be one of the only ones. So I went away and I did everything he said. Every night, I used to just go home and play football every night. I went home and I put a little table out and a little lamp and I did what he said. Then I played football and the next day I went to take it to him and then I did my exam and I got two Fs, an E and a C.
Wow.
And then I went to my interview at teaching college and I got in on the C. And I became a teacher. I became a teacher and then my whole life changed. I went to university and I became a different human. I found my way. I was teaching kindergarten. I was like, thank God for this. It's a dream come true. And then I've traveled the whole world teaching and, multiple things have happened. I've had a great time. I'm really grateful for that. But I'm grateful for him for two things. And I've only just realized this recently. There's two things that he did that day. Number one, he said, I see you, by the way. I see you. And I don't just see your, yeah, I know. I don't just see your name. I don't just see your name on the roll or your face in my class. I see your struggles. I can see what you like. I can see you having a hard time. Number one. Number two, he showed me that I matter to him. He said, you know what? You matter to me. And he didn't just say, you matter to me. He said, I'm going to put some time into you. Let me put some time into you because I care about your future. I'll do this extra work for you. You meet me halfway and we'll get you to where you need to be. And he let me know I was seen and he let me know I matter. And, there's a theory called the theory of mattering, which says when you let someone know that they matter, They will pull you into their inner world. You will trust them and you will mimic everything they do. It's just a fact. And he did that for me. And I fell into his beautiful trap, which was amazing. And then he changed my life. And so that was my inspiration to write the book. I wanted to celebrate what he had done and then show teachers and parents, you can do the same thing. It's so easy. And I didn't know, but I've spent my whole life as a teacher being him, doing what he did. And I've had great success in schools with classes and children. And, it's because I literally learned from him the easiest things in the world. Let kids know they're seen, tell them that they matter, and show them that they matter. And bingo, the rest just comes naturally. And it's so true.
It is so true, Gavin. Wow. I was really just getting all goosebumpy listening to that story. And my heart is expanding right now. I just can feel this love that you have for the teacher and that impact. It's really, if in AME, this idea of relationship and connection is number one. And that we help the learning facilitators understand that, well, first, co-regulation is a really big piece of the puzzle. Just being a regulated, grounded adult in the physical presence of children impacts them just by having a regulated nervous system. But then to take the step of building the relationship with the facilitator, helping them build a relationship with themselves and the relationship with learning. To me, this is the heart of education, of the experience of young humans growing into all that they can be. It's starting with that relationship with the people who are guiding them, the relationship they have with themselves and their learning. What a beautiful experience for you. And kudos to this teacher. I hope so very much that that the book finds its way to him. I'm sure that it will, and he's going to know what impact he's had on your life, and the ripple effects of that impact are incredible, Gavin. And I know our time is limited here, so I want to take you just briefly through the AME arc. We've talked quite a bit about your contributions. We've touched a little bit on what sparked it, but I'm curious if once you decided teacher, once you wrote that on the paper and that path started, was there a moment, perhaps even before then, when you realized that education itself needed to change, that the education system as it was not doing our students, was not giving them what they needed, and that you wanted to do it in a different way? Was there
Yeah,
something
look,
that struck that curiosity chord in you when you just thought, I need to know more about how to do this?
Yeah, look, I've always been a person who likes to find things out, investigate, get to the source. When I'm the kind of person who likes to be unique in the sense that I need to know why things are happening out there. Like, why are they responding like that? Why are they smiling? Why are they sad? Why did they not engage with my lesson? And all of those things. And I think one prominent moment was when I saw the true power of giving ownership over to students in terms of, hey, by the way, I'm the person at the front, but it doesn't mean I know everything. In fact, I really don't know anything. I'm a kindergarten teacher. Like, we don't need to know much. You probably know more than me. But I was working in an Islamic school, and the Islamic school was filled with refugees who'd come from war-torn countries all over the world. And I was standing there and at the front, and we were teaching some class. And it was grade 5. And the students, it wasn't ringing well. They just weren't happy in this room. It was quite clearly, do what Mr. McCormack is saying, learn the things he says for the test that's coming up around the corner, try to memorize it. And if we get good grades, then everyone's a great teacher and everyone's a great student. And I just thought, this is just not good. And then this is not working. And I could just feel it. If you're doing a keynote speech and the audience are just like, God, this is garbage. And you're just like, I need to leave. I'm really not hitting the mark here. My audience was a bunch of 10-year-olds. So I started to think about, wonder why. wonder why this is not working. Why am I not getting them? And it turned out that they had been through such hardship, they'd seen such horrible things and been through such perilous journeys to come from Syria, Afghanistan, all the way to Australia, overland, many of them, getting boats from Indonesia and then sinking on the way to Australia and getting caught and put on Manus Island for 5 years. And then all this stuff, they'd been through so much that fractions with different denominators for an upcoming test was the least of their worries. No wonder they didn't want to learn about it, because it was really like nothing. And so I thought about it. I thought, look, I've got to do something here. I can spice up my lessons. I can make the resources more entertaining. No, that is not it. So what I decided to do was, and I just made this up. I don't know where it came from. I went to school and I said, okay, you know what? Like, you're all from different countries here. And I've never been to Afghanistan, never been to Syria. I don't know what food you eat. I have no idea about this kind of stuff. I think that we can all learn something from each other in this class. So what I'm going to do, here's the timetable, and I'm going to cross out, I blanked out some of the blocks. So it was English, maths, blank, science, and there were 30-minute blocks, and I blanked out 5 of them. And I said to the class, these are for you. I need to learn about who you are. And so it'd be great if you could come and tell us a little about what you can come in. You can bring some of your, toys, teddies, clothing, food, pictures, anything from your life, and let's learn about each other. Let's find out who we really are. And so I put it out to them, and there was a few smiles and a bit of happiness and great, but then no one really volunteered. First week, I had no volunteers, and so I was like, okay, well, never mind. So I thought, well, maybe I need to model the behavior with these guys. So I said, you know what? How about I take the first block? So I said, I'm going to tell you about me, but I'll tell you about the real me. And then I remember this moment, like everyone's back went up a bit straight and their eyes opened a bit wide. They were like, real you? And I said, there's Mr. McCormack who comes every day, and I'm wearing a shirt and trousers and all this stuff. And I've got a folder with pieces of paper in it, but I'm going to tell you about who I really am, like who I was when I was a kid. And I told them about my dad leaving before I was born. And I told them about, being bullied and all this stuff. And I told them the real me and what I like to do at the weekend and what I'm scared of. And I'm scared of flying and all this stuff. And then it was really amazing. At the end of that 30-minute little presentation, I had a few photos that I showed them of my mom and stuff like that and where I'm from. A little boy, his name was Tariq. I'll never forget him. He's like, can I go next? And then I was like, you definitely can. And then a few days later, he came in, he was wearing his white abaya and his small cap, and he told us about his life. And it was amazing and sad at the same time. It wasn't harrowing. There was nothing too traumatic in there. And then it was it. Bingo. Floodgates opened and everybody had a turn, right? Everyone. And I couldn't shut them up. They literally wanted to teach everything. Like, I want to teach geography and science, history. I was like, let's go for it. Let's do it. So we had this beautiful equality in the room that said, you know what? We all have something to learn from each other. We've all been through something. Some are really bad and some are not so bad, but we're all vulnerable and we're all weak and strong at the same time, and we're all knowledgeable. So we had this respect for each other. Then I realized that's what it's got to be like. You have to think and feel and say, I've got as much to learn from you as you've got to learn from me. I'm the teacher, but really I'm not. I'm just a student in here, and we're all teachers and we're all students. And when you have that, when you can get to that, I think you've hit the gold standard at that point,
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, that's inspiring. What a beautiful story. I can understand how that prompted you. It resonates with me once again, because I see myself the same way, as sort of as a scientist, always wondering why, how, wanting to test how to make these changes and bring life to students. Well, they're in life, but make learning meaningful for them. Let them see that they have a voice. And I just really appreciate when you said about agency, this idea of giving students a say. It's really powerful when they feel like they are participants in their learning instead of just these passive recipients, as you invited those students to do by letting them know that they have something to offer as well, and how powerful for them to find their voice feel that connection with you, know that you've created a safe space and that you're a safe person, and then the magic happens. Right? That's what all kids want, isn't it, Gavin? They want to be in a space where they know that they're safe to take risks, to share, to express themselves, and that they're going to be accepted for who they are. And once they know that they are seen, as you so well put, and that they are heard, then they can tap into what I believe is as an innate desire to grow and learn. I believe we are born wanting to grow and learn and express ourselves. And unfortunately, for many of us, what happens is we get into school, and school tells us that we have to grow and learn and express in only a very specific way. And when we don't find that we can learn or express ourselves in that way, we start to look inward and think, what's wrong with me? Why can't
Mm.
I? Am I even capable? Why can't I do it? And what you're doing is you're completely flipping that around and breaking open the box and letting students know that it doesn't matter who they are or where they came from. They still have a voice. They still can be the owners of their life and their learning and be active participants in it. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful what you're doing. And I'm so grateful that there are people like you in the world helping students understand who they are and how they learn and can contribute to the world.
Look, the,
So,
the the one I
yeah.
think the golden, I just want to say the golden, I've done so many teacher training courses with teachers and keynote speeches and all this stuff. And you come back to, you mentioned co-regulation theory earlier, which is a really interesting one. Like there's a couple of real gems, isn't there, out there? And if we just knew what they were, then we can use these things to make teaching, make education, make school and our home life just like the perfect storm for learning
Mm,
in a safe environment. Like co-regulation. If you calm yourself before you enter a space where someone is deregulated, their nervous system just borrows your nervous system like a Wi-Fi receptor and goes, I'm deregulated, you're regulated, can I please have it? And they just latch onto it and they become regulated. And if you know that, like someone's having a tantrum, they're having a breakdown, they're really upset, if you just take 30 seconds, step to one side, regulate your nervous system, enter the space, bingo, no problem. You can't argue with biochemistry. That's the way it's going to work. And so if we just know that, the greatest theory, I think, ever as a tool, and I lecture at Notre Dame University, and I say this to all my undergraduates,
mm,
if you take anything from these 4 years, you take this, and it is the theory of mattering. I've said it before, but I'll explain it really clearly for you and your listeners. I think it's pure gold. A child appears at the door one morning to come to school. Now, as you said before, school's a scary place. Lots of things can go wrong. Yes, of course, you can get bullied and all these kind of things, but they're very big. But there's also these tiny little undercurrent of anxieties that just are at play. Will the classroom be too cold? Will my friend be absent today? Will there be a surprise test? All these things are just tiny and they're undetectable to children and to us sometimes, but they all add up and they build up to be this kind of, oh, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about going to school. And you see this in children when it gets too much, you have a breakdown, they're crying outside school, they don't want to go in, and they don't know why they don't want to go in. And it's because these things are just piling up. And we can be proactive as educational institutions to mitigate them. We can take them out. You'll never get a surprise test here in this school. It's just a thing we do not do. And by the way, if you ever want to speak about anything that's bothering in your classroom, there's a bell over there. You can ring it, and when you ring it, everybody stops and you say, "I feel cold," and we will try to fix it. I'm never going. And so these kind of things, you can do these things, and children go, "Oh," and you erode away those anxieties, so school becomes safe. But theory of mattering is just pure gold dust. A child arrives at your door in the morning, and you have no idea what they've been through. You have no idea what happened at home. You have no idea what they're scared of. You can't look into their psyche to find that out. What you can do is you can let them know they matter at the door every morning. And so you say, "Good morning, Alexandra." And you know that Alexandra has just recently joined a netball team. Okay, you just know that because you're interested in their lives and you say, "Hey, by the way, how's it going at the netball club?" Right? And you say, "Oh, my teacher knows that I play netball." I say, just what position do you play, Alexandra? And Alexandra says, I play goal attack. He said, well, I'd love to know when you score your first basket. That's going to be great. I said, let's pop in there and, get ready for class. Now, you might think, well, what's the point? What's the point in doing that? Because, it's wasting time. I really got to get going with my lessons. But actually, what happens in a child's brain is this. The child's brain says, that person over there, that human, who could have been doing anything with his time, because he's a very busy person, he's got his own life, he has been thinking about my life. And he is actively interested in it. He actually showed interest. He got down low, he looked me in the eye and he said, you tell me when you score your first basket. I'm really, really keen. Now, child goes, I matter to you, and therefore you care about me. If you care about me, then I should trust you. And if I trust you, I'm going to copy you, listen to you, and mimic you. But something is really amazing that happens there. Number one, oxytocin is released into their bloodstream, the cuddle hormone, which says, I feel safe here. Number two, you look beautiful. They just want to look at you. And if you're teaching a class, you really want them looking at you. And number three, you sound beautiful, like your voice just sounds like an angel singing. So, I'm obviously the beauty part is not about that. It's about that you are an attractive thing to pay attention to, which is what you want from your students. However, if you fail to let your children know they matter, the exact opposite happens. Number one, you're pushed out of the inner tribe. Nope, you're not in here. I'm not listening to you. I'm not mimicking you. I'm not copying you. You could be teaching me the wrong things. I don't trust you. Number two, you look ugly and you sound terrible. They don't want to look at you and they don't want to listen to you. And you know that. Everyone in this podcast knows that. If you've got a friend's husband who you despise and you're at the dinner table, he's on the next table at the wedding and he's talking, you can hear his voice. You're like, God, I wish that guy would stop talking because I don't like him. Not that you don't like him, he just grates on you. Something has gone the wrong way. So the theory of mentoring just says invest early in letting your children know they matter. And teaching just becomes easy, like water off a duck's back, because the kids are listening, trusting, mimicking, and copying, and you're almost a family member to these guys. Fail to do it, and you may as well just be talking to a blank wall because they're just not listening to you. And theory, research backs this up as well.
I 100% am aware of the neuroscience and the research, but you're saying it in such a ear-friendly way that all of us
I call it layman. I'm talking to the layman because I'm a layman.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what we need to hear. Yeah. Gavin, you are getting ready to meet with another group and allow your impact to spread. And I'd like to just close with the theory of mattering. You matter, Gavin, and I really appreciate that you are helping young humans know that they matter as well. As you so beautifully said, just letting them know that they matter opens the door. It opens the door for them to listen, to learn, to grow. So with your global voice and your global impact, let our listeners know, how can they learn more about you? How can they get your books? What's a good platform for them to hear from you? I know LinkedIn is one of them, and I encourage everyone to friend you on LinkedIn because your posts are always so inspiring. But are there some other ways people can reach out and get to know you?
No, I deleted everything. All social media is gone, vanished. I can't possibly write a book on it and have social media. Although I had thousands and thousands of followers, I just deleted everything. I do have a blog. You can find me there. I reply to every email I get. And of course, books are easy to find now. Online, just type in my name, you will find it. But look, I appreciate you inviting me on this podcast. I get a lot of invitations and I did my research on you, and you are also doing wonderful work and have a wonderful message. And I appreciate the work that you do. And, you can tell just by looking at your eyes when you're talking that it means so much to you. And I feel the same way. That happens to me too. I spent a lot of my time in Himalayas crying, not because I was sad, because I was so happy, that I'm being able to be gifted to do this work. And so I appreciate you inviting me and appreciate the time. And, maybe we can meet again. That'd be wonderful.
Gavin, I would love nothing more. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I look forward to talking to you again.
You too, and thank you to all your listeners, and have a wonderful day too, Alexandra.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.